Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome back to our subscriber game tournament as we continue with round 2 with match 5 against Will Be Deed in the red. So looking at the deployment setup, Will Be Deed actually hid most of his troops for deployment, so I had relatively little intel as to what exactly he was bringing. The only general I knew for sure was Xu Huang because he was the commanding general, that much I knew. And that means he has at least some possibility of bringing everyone that Cao Cao can bring. So northern units are on the table, Qingzhou units are on the table. And if we just zoom in a little bit, because all his units are really cramped in here, we have Xu Huang, obviously tier 3, great general, has the vanguard abilities, is unbreakable. He's a pretty unique sentinel because of that. And he also will bring a passive buff on himself, giving him extreme acceleration on charges and increased speed and charge speed as well. So pretty good on horseback, even though the charge bonus is not super high. Weapons good, everything else checks out. Then we have He Man, obviously with hail of arrows, also can have surprise attack, which can grant all nearby units stock, as well as fear and a host of other bonuses. But mainly, stock would be pretty huge if you want to use the next 60 seconds to sneak up on my towers without getting hit. That is definitely an option with stock, and that is a infinite use ability. He just had to wait the 180 second cooldown, which is quite long. Since this is a speedrun attempt, he probably only have one shot of using this for its maximum effectiveness. And then finally, closing out his rank, he has Zhou Yu, a double health, unbreakable general. So except for He Man, both of his other generals are unbreakable, and they all have a decent amount of health and obviously great weapons. Zhou Yu does not have Stifling Deluge. It does become a rather weak point for him. He has Ripples of Perspective instead. This might be a bit wasteful. It is good because he does have nice retinue selection under him, being an officer from Wu, but not having Stifling Deluge to kind of stop Lu Bu from rampaging in could be a problem. But he does have the Inspiring Surge for reduced cooldowns for the other two generals' abilities, so that perhaps could have some usage. He did bring siege weapons, 2 trebuchets to be exact, and looking at the unit breakdown, we have Northern Veteran Saber Infantry, which is one of the few melee infantry that can have turtle formation, making them quite useful in sieges. There's actually 2 of them, I think. 3, 4 of them, wow. And then Yellow Sky Heralds, unbreakable Yellow Turban Infantry, one of the few with the full retinue size. And I think there's 2 of them, if I can find the other one. There's bound to be one more. I think I saw 2. There we go, right there. They don't use axe, they use a club. The icon's axe, they don't have shield break. Their main thing is they're unbreakable. The damage is decent, and they're cheap. They're very cheap to recruit. Speaking of being cheap, Huanglao Paragons are also very cheap. They have very high damage against low armor targets, but even against high armor targets, if you reduce the 61 by about half, it's still pretty decent damage for a very cheap unit once again. Zhou Yu brought Pearl Dragons and I believe a Handmade Guard. The Handmade Guard is obviously here to debuff the damage on the 3 generals. They're hoping to use the generals to obviously overpower Lu Bu, and having a nice 25% damage resistance definitely help, and that's really why Zhou Yu is pretty strong. The Pearl Dragons are a pretty excellent choice as well. I think they're actually recruited on Xu Huang, which will be the more optimum play. I think they are. I think Zhou Yu's only brought the Handmade and plus the 2 trebuchets. And Pearl Dragons are actually pretty decent in multiplayer matches because they have really good stats, and that's what's important. It doesn't really matter about the reform requirements as though in campaign. So we're looking at a decent high damage, very high evasion infantry that can be used to counter some of my infantry options that I'm fielding. So I'm guessing we're going to get pounded by some trebuchet shots at the beginning. So let's see how that turns out. And let's see how that surprise attack will factor into this. The trebuchet's winding up, and they should just be firing here. Now, firing out of the tree is not optimum, but it's okay. As long as it doesn't get blocked by a tree, it's usually fine. The correct usage of the ammo here, using the non-fire shots for the high damage against the walls. I'm just trying to get my units slightly onto the left here because I don't want any of the splash hits to possibly hit them, even though it's pretty low chance. This wall is going to collapse in no time. Did they level up the trebuchets? No. I think that's another mistake most players make. You want to spend a bit of money to upgrade your trebuchets after recruiting the multiplayer, because the low accuracy of rank 1 trebuchets is pretty well documented. And if we look at the unit choices, well, we have some time. It seems like none of them are upgraded. Oh, there's a couple. There's a level 2 here and level 2 here. So basically, pocket change, 3 units got upgraded at the end because he couldn't afford another full unit. And we got the walls down. Now, as I mentioned before, this piece of the wall is indestructible because it's part of this corner. The entire corner is indestructible here. Let's see what the second target of these trebuchets are. I assume he's going to be going after another wall segment. Okay, so that is him trying to open up more gaps for his units to come through. My towers found the target. Because he turned his trebuchets, well, they turned themselves to hit another target. They are now getting hit. He realizes this. He's trying to reposition them. It's going to take a little bit of damage, but I think he's going to be able to keep all 4 of them up. The towers are damaging, but not that accurate, so he'll be fine. Alright, I'm shifting my units this way now because I don't want to get hit here, and I know this wall is safe, so I'm going to put my units here. I probably should be moving more units towards there, as you can see. I'm not entirely confident there's no unit hiding in these trees, but given where he's hitting things with his trebuchet, I'm going to start shifting Camp Crushers over because they're just better at gaps. And we have ourselves a pretty methodical siege. Poor units that have died. Ooh, this has a new target. He's now targeting, I believe, the towers. Or, oh, actually this wall. Or is it just missed shots on the towers? I'm actually not sure. Let's see where they're actually hitting. And these are the impact points. They've all been short. Can't really tell. They're not reloading fast enough. Unless he swapped the target back. I think he'd swap the target back. They got this wall. See, when John L says something like that, where the enemies are breaching in, you get a little scared that stock units are coming in, but actually they're not. Okay, he's going for wall, I think. Yeah, he's going for as many gaps as he can. I think he's going to use turtle formation on the northern Saber infantry to flood in, to absorb the aggro from the towers, clearing a path for the rest of his unit to advance. Plus, he has the surprise attack that he could utilize. So the towers really won't bother his army that much. And he still has plenty of ammo because he's just been aiming for walls, so not too bad. He's aiming for both of these, I guess. It might end up being quite a big gap over here. I'm trying to scoot out of the way a little bit, so the straight shots don't find me, especially if it does collapse quite large here. Alright. Wonder if he's still going to go for this, or this is just missed shots that hit this instead. It's got 3 gaps. That's plenty, actually. I don't think he has large enough of an infantry force to kind of go for... Ooh, he swapped. He's going for tower now with fire. I think this is a misconception. In the rain, it's actually better to go for the regular shots. Not the first time we've seen this mistake, but a lot of players actually mentioned to me during the match and after that they done test runs against the AI in terms of how to effectively bypass the wall, and some of them stated that, you know, this was still better than the regular shots. But I think the thing that would help you the most is actually if you had leveled up your trebuchets to rank 10. It does cost a little bit of money, but then at that point, 1 trebuchet is probably enough to take out 1/2 of the town. The misses are really just a shame. He needs just 2 more hits. Oh, that's 1. Just 1 more hit before the rain reduces it. I think each hit is 13%. So come on. It rounded up, obviously not exactly 13, so it was 40 with 3 shots. 38, he needs a hit now. Once it's above 50, there we go, he got it, 52. So the rain can't bring it down after it goes above 50. So he did his job. Now he has 5 shots. I wonder if he's going to go for the fort tower as well. It's a lot more difficult in the fort tower though, but it's the bigger target. So maybe he can do it. He's going. And see, he got 1 shot on it, 8%. It's probably not going to happen with only 4 shots left. He needs to be super accurate, and he just doesn't have the level for that. I couldn't really march my cavalry or generals out in this situation just because I had no intel on the rest of his army. I could just be charging into a trap, so I basically have to stay put, watch him destroy all my siege, or all the towers with his siege. Yeah, that missed. That ended up hitting, I think, the gate. Maybe he'll bring the gate down. That's another point of entry. Maybe that should be his focus, because I don't think he's going to bring the fort tower down anymore. Yeah, as you can see, the fire damage is not even really registering. It's largely just raw damage, which would have been a lot higher if we just used regular shots. Yeah, it was pretty clear he was going to come through these gaps, so I'm just shifting all my resources up. Still a little hesitant, because I don't know if one of his retinues happened to be Yanbaihu or someone, and maybe they can do a, flank attack at the same time, so I don't want to leave this gap too far. I do have a cavalry, but even then we're starting to commit them, because, as he runs out of ammo and his generals come out, I realize, okay, there is no Yanbaihu. We should be fine. There is no flank, so everyone can move up. He's sending the generals in directly, so I'm pretty sure he wants to do Flame of the Phoenix as quickly as he can, Hail of Arrows as quickly as he can, to try to just kill my units. Gonna respond with my generals, but still risky, 2v3. Cavalry's coming in, trying to plug up this hole. We got the evasion boost right away, but immediately he threw down the Wisdom River. Lu Bu went to go plug up the holes while the units try to shift over. And John L is going to do his best to hang on over here against 2. If we just keep hitting on He Man, he cannot use his Hail of Arrows. But still a bad situation for us, of course. We're plugging a second unit here. And then his infantry showed up, and I'm like, I'm a unit short. So we're going to have to adjust here. We're going to have to kind of hold this and then do some sort of diagonal here. Because I don't think the gate broke. I'm not sure about that actually now. The gate never broke, so I can't plug this hole fast enough, so I have to do a diagonal hold or something like that. Meanwhile, most of the fighting's still on this side. If I somehow could kill their generals, Xu Huang's hurt quite badly. I'm trying to kill him off. There's a chance we could turn it around if we just kill off all his generals, of course. Even though his infantry, I mean, we plugged up this hole with the, camp crusher, should do decent damage. He stopped microing his generals for a little bit. I got caught up with his Pearl Dragons, which is not good. I'm taking charge hits right now by their generals. Tough situation. Yeah, we're just a little bit outnumbered. And I got the evasion back up quickly. Hopefully it's enough to just have him last a little while. We got dismounted off of just being stuck here and then got killed. Yeah, so at this point, without Lu Bu being alive, the Pearl Dragons did a great job there. I'm just going to try my best to extend this match. You see our units actually lost to the Pearl Dragons here at the gate as well. So having more premium infantry, a roar on us, yeah, we don't have a lot of morale at this point, especially with our low health. Yeah, we're starting to think, how can we delay this match? So we're pulling units back into the center. I actually forgot what happened to my cavalry. I think I charged them over to the gap, but they ended up dying. The ability usage on the generals, still quite painful. Xu Huang is quite a good sentinel. Alright, so we did plug up these holes, but now we're getting flanked because the generals broke through. So the rest would look pretty ugly as I'm desperate trying to just hang on to this for as long as possible. smoke screening to try to avoid getting targeted by a hail of arrow. You do need a target for that, but it doesn't really work because immediately their army is like right on top of the smoke screen so they can see us. He's just trying to whittle down our units with his bow. Go for that. Xu Huang's gonna slam on us. Yep. And general abilities will do quick work of our forces there. The surprise attack's being used here for damage boost, which is fine, and fear. 25% is no small number for elite units. And the generals are quickly realizing that they need to try to speed up their win, because it's pretty much guaranteed at this point with all the units flooding through. So now it's just a time issue. Once again, trying to stay away from getting targeted by the hail of arrows, but it doesn't really do much because Xu Huang can just come in and do a slam with his abilities. And the army loss is going to kick in as well. Yep, and once this unit is gone, the other unit loses himself to army loss. It's quite a nice coordinated attack when you have multiple gaps and also combined use of some very aggressive generals. Very, very useful. If Lu Bu had somehow killed Xu Huang inside, and then they didn't have to go out chased into the Pearl Dragons, it probably would have been slightly better. But even then, the quality of the unit being brought by this setup is pretty nice. The infantry with the Northern Veteran Saber units and the Pearl Dragons, I think they would win pretty handily, especially with General's help. It would have been slower without Xu Huang slamming each of my units at the different gates. But eventually, I think they would have prevailed, especially since all they have to do is break through one point and set up a flank like what they did over here with only really 4 infantry units to use. One of them pretty much have to stay behind, so the generals can't just walk by. If I basically keep all my infantry up here, the general just walk around, capture the point, and I lose anyway. So I have to keep one at least back over here. 3 units to plug 3 holes. If any of one of them give up, then the other 2 gets flanked, and the battle is over. There wasn't really a great effective use of my cavalry. I actually don't remember where I sent my cavalry, but I think they died around here. Looking at the bodies, I know Lu Bu killed a couple of their cavalry units, but I actually don't recall what I did with them. But they weren't very effective. Against this army setup, I don't think they would have done too much, because there's no really fragile units to really pick on, and the coordination on the attack was quite nice. The difference maker was the breach. Once it breached over here and Lu Bu died, it was pretty over for us. But great job by Will Be Deed. And let's check out his time and actual kill counts. So looking at this numbers here, we have the official score of 1123. This will put Will Be Deed currently in second. And looking at how the units performed, you can see the Pearl Dragons did fairly well. They did lose units. They have very low armor, and Lu Bu were able to get some damage on them in the beginning. But overall, they were able to return a lot of damage. Our units tried their best, especially some of them actually did quite nice. But once the generals had free reign, Xu Huang and He Man, who didn't even use his health arrows, we tried to avoid that situation, still didn't really help us out, and they were able to clean up. He still had a flood of infantry with high damage that could continue to pressure us. The Handmaid Guard, which rushed up with the generals in the beginning, is probably what kept Xu Huang alive, if you think about it, because he got out with very few health in the beginning, and that 25% damage resistance definitely kicked in, and it was proper use to have them charge up with the generals to make sure they have that boost throughout the fight. And great job overall by Will Be Deed. Now we have 5 contestants with score now on the scoreboard, and that means once we have our next battle, technically we would have our first qualifier for round 3 or the round of 8, because at that point we would have 6 scores and only 7 more contestants. And even if all 7 does better than our current 6, the first place will be guaranteed at least 8th, and we can congratulate, I guess it'll be 0 at this point, of moving on if he is indeed still first after our next matchup. So let's keep our eyes out for that and move on to our next match. Until then, bye!